Hello, I'm Ed Rabyd, otherwise known as the Rabyd Atheist, a former pastor turned atheist, now a compassionate anti-theist. Welcome to my channel. Feel free to like or dislike the video as you see fit, so feel free to hit those buttons. Feel free to comment below, and I appreciate it if you'd subscribe to the channel and hit your notification bell for more content as it is released. You already saw the title, you already saw the thumbnail, so let's get into it. I want to clarify what I'm talking about here with how much of the biblical ethics is stolen. A lot of people talk about how the ethics of the Bible when it's good, like, love your neighbor as yourself or anything like that. In fact, love your neighbor as yourself, the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, is basically borrowed or stolen by the Bible. And when you see this, people point out that kind of thing, the golden rule, is like in multiple texts of religious things all around the world, different times period. There are many that predate Jesus saying it, quote unquote Jesus saying it. There are many that predate the Old Testament when it says it. So, the Bible is basically just copying and parroting something else of moral conduct. And I would argue that from an ethical standpoint, what religion does often, not all the time, but religion does basically borrow and steal, takes from human morality that we come up with to have rules for our society to govern ourselves effectively. And so it borrows those things. Now, the question I have today is how much of that happens? Because one of the things I run into as a atheist libertarian politically is I get the question every once in a while, well, why didn't you go all the way left once you left? It seems like the most logical conclusion. Because I think it would be I think the problem I have with that is to me, it's more of an emotional decision to just shift all the way to the left right away. I don't think that's an intellectual decision. I think when people come out, when they deconvert from Christianity, and particularly right-wing or right-leaning or conservative Christianity, fundamentalist Christianity, they come out of that. And I think they make the erroneous assumption that everything about that, because it was abusive or whatever, was bad or wrong or intellectually dishonest. Okay? And so they pull away from that politically and philosophically, and they go to the left, okay, because to them, okay, if this is everything that's wrong with the universe, I need to be over here as far away from it as possible. And I think that's why a lot of atheists and a lot of people that particularly come out of that go to the left. Now, yeah, there's people that have been atheists all their life and they end up on the left, politically speaking, in the United States, more of a socialist, gun control, kind of mentality where, some of the politically correct stuff, LGBTQ supportive, that sort of thing. So when I left atheism, I said, okay, just because the basic tenet of Christianity is bullshit doesn't mean that they haven't borrowed other ethics from that simply work evolutionarily speaking or ethically speaking. These are just good things like, reciprocity. Do to people what you want them to do to you. The golden rule is a reciprocity thing, okay? Well, that's a good ethic no matter who you get it from, okay? So I don't reject that simply because it came out of Christianity. That's kind of dumb because, like it or not, there's some good advice in the Bible if you get past the supernatural, spiritual bullshit and the God thing. There is, as my father used to say, even a blind hog can root up a truffle now and then. And to me, religion makes you ethically blind, but it doesn't mean you don't stumble on something and do things for good reasons. I'm going to give you a good example. There's a lot of people on the left that, family is family, the nuclear family is overrated, except when you get back to the results, particularly when single mother homes are analyzed, one of the things that becomes very apparent is that children that come out of single parent homes, single mother or single father, have a real hard time, a much harder time than a traditional nuclear family. This is simply true. Now, this could be a societal thing, it could be a cultural thing, but the fact is that society or culture exists. And yet, this also may be an evolutionary thing. Because when I was growing up, I had two good parents. They were both Christian. But I would say that, how can we say this? I would say that their good parenting skills had very little to do with their religion. My issue is, are there still some good things in religion that they have basically stolen that we can still recognize as good? And I think this is helpful for deconversion from an emotional standpoint, because when I came out of being a pastor, one of the things that was challenging to me is, what the hell do I do now? What good thing have I learned as a pastor that can translate into the real world? Now, part of it is being an advocate and doing what I'm doing here on the Rabyd Atheist, my YouTube channel. But what about real life? How do I get a job? Okay. And I've discovered that in teaching, a lot of the things like people skills, putting together a lesson, it's not that much different than putting together a liturgy, except the components are different. And I have to learn the differences in the components and vary it up a little bit. But there is a power, there's a real power in ritual, even in education, having the kids develop the habits that allow them to be good students and develop them into good learners. There's a lot of power in that. Well, that's something that religion has taken. Now, we can say it's stolen or they came up with it, doesn't really matter. But if you're going to deconvert and you're going to be rational about it, you can't just emotionally react to what you were and just flip to the other side because you think that must be good then. Because I'm going to tell you that human beings without religion can still do shitty shit. Okay? You don't have to have a religion. I mean, we can sit here and say, yeah, Stalin wasn't really motivated by his atheism, and I would agree with that. But Stalin was an atheist and he did shitty shit, okay? And we can still say that was crap, okay? And probably an inherent flaw in communism is that eventually it leads to dictatorship. My issue is that when I take any political view I take, and this is for future reference for future videos, you need to understand that I didn't take it out of reaction to coming out of Christianity necessarily. I took it because I intellectually looked at each issue. It's why I'm really struggling with a few issues. Like when I look at science and I look at reality and I look at economic reality and how things actually work, one of the things that I keep noting is there's certain things that I keep saying, is that really Christian culture or is it just good ethics? And the Christian culture has, basically co-opted it. And, I look at things like, I don't think capitalism has a damn thing to do with religion, Christian or otherwise. I think you can make a case for capitalism and a case for socialism out of the Bible, which is another contradiction in my opinion. So really when I look at economics, I say, what works the best? No economic system is perfect, but what works the best? So that generates a different discussion. When I look at rights, what are rights? They're not given by God, from my perspective, but do they exist? And the answer is yes, I think they do. I think we practically have come up with the idea of rights because when people have that idea, society works better. So that's kind of where I'm going with this thought, and I'm very interested to hear some of your comments and where this might go. What exactly is biblical ethics and what isn't. One more thing, I want to do the comment of the day every day from whatever video. So if you comment on this video, probably the next day there's a chance that I might notice that comment, and right now I'm not getting a lot, so it's a pretty good chance. And I'll comment it on it. But the comment of the day comes from a guy named CJ, who's a Christian, who gave a very long comment and a very long spiel. 3 things. Maybe 4. Number 1, brevity. I know that you're trying to write out your whole flippin' testimony, but brevity. Brevity isn't just the soul of wit. It's how you communicate today in today's age. I am guilty of this too. Like, it's why when I'm writing on my blog, The Gray Wayfarer, right now, I'm really like, if I get too long, I say, no, no, we're going to push that to tomorrow. I'm learning to write more succinctly. Being succinct helps. Dude, you rambled a lot. Okay. Basic criticism, though. 95% of what you said is your interpretation of your personal experiences. I did a video on personal experiences and why they're not proof of God a long time ago. I'll link it above my head. But simply put, you're saying that your experiences can't be interpreted any other way. And you're saying that your interpretation, hear that carefully, your interpretation of your experiences is infallible. You're a human being. I'm going to say that your interpretation is not infallible. And so therefore there are alternative explanations for everything you said. And if you don't acknowledge that there are alternative explanations, then you're saying your interpretation is infallible. And from your perspective, you're putting yourself on the level of God, which I don't think you want to do. Another one, you quote the Bible verse at me. Now, first of all, I'm an atheist. I don't give a shit anymore what the Bible says. I would like to remind anybody who comments on the Bible, I have a degree in this thing. Okay, I have a biblical studies degree. I have a master's in theological studies. Okay, from legitimate accredited institutions. Okay, I preached and taught out of this thing for 20 flipping years. I know its contents. And when people come up to me and make comments basically assuming I don't know what the Bible says, it's insulting. Okay, it's just straight up insulting to me anymore. You know, the problem I think with most Christians when they comment against atheists, they are very ignorant of what atheists know and believe. They make a lot of assumptions. And my father had another saying, don't assume, it makes an ass out of you and me. I agree with him. Don't assume about me. Learn about me before you make a comment. So you can quote, God is light and in him is no darkness at all you want. I say that's bullshit, okay? God doesn't exist and he's all darkness. And if you look at the history of the Bible, he's kind of an evil SOB with how he kills people for some pretty flimsy reasons. Okay, he seems to have an ego and he seems to be an insecure little child, a monarch who throws tantrums. And I'm not lying about that. Other thing, atheists there's no morality in atheists. I think you make mention of that. Dude, that is just straight up ad hominem attack. Okay, atheists have morality and they have ethics. In fact, I would say in some ways they're better because they're making ethics based on the here and now and not some fictitious hereafter. You have the notion that God is going to balance the scales at the end. So if there's injustice in the world, who gives a fuck? In my case, I believe the only justice, the only goodness in life, the only thing that's going to find here. So I better work on making this a better place to live while I'm here for my own self and for the future. Those are pretty good ethics. I don't need a God to have good ethics. And this issue has been dealt with by other atheists. I think I've even dealt with it, but it's like, dude, no. And finally, I would say the reason you believe in God is you wanted to believe in God. You got to a point where you said, oh, can this be all there is? And lo and behold, you went out looking for something more and you found it. That is such a known psychological phenomenon. Dude, I want Odin to exist so bad. Is this all there is? Odin seems, in pagan mythology and Viking mythology, to really give meaning to those people's lives. And wouldn't it be cool for Odin to exist? And you go out looking for it. Oh, no, man, all of a sudden I have all these Odinists in my life. Okay? Dude, don't you see what you're doing to yourself? You have deluded yourself. You have created the God that you think exists in your head. And that's all it is. Sorry, your comment didn't give me any new things or any good reasons to reconsider my position. You still haven't given me sufficient evidence that God exists. Okay, so I'm going to reject your God proposal until you do. Okay, that's the way atheism works. I'm not making a claim. You're the one making the claim. The rest of it just kind of falls apart after that, and I'm like, dude, I've heard all this before. My challenge to theists stands. Give me something new that I haven't heard before. And keep in mind that I used to be an apologist, an amateur one maybe, where I had to explain to my congregants all the time why certain things were still true. I have been a teacher of the Bible. I have degrees in the Bible. I have read the Bible cover to cover at least 15 times, if not more. I know the Bible and I know theology and I know apologetics. I know all that stuff. So to come at me assuming, not a good plan. And I think that's the problem a lot of you theists think. You think that everything's so ironclad and you have so it's truth. No, you're not. Your shit's full of holes, and you better start figuring out how to plug them, because otherwise people like me are just going to continue to point out the holes. Okay, there's just a lot of crap wrong. All right, well, I want to thank everybody for stopping by. I've gone about 5 minutes over what I intended, but I did want to deal with that comment. Hopefully you'll give me some comments about the subject matter today. Once again, thank you for stopping by. And this is Ed Rabyd, also known as the Rabyd Atheist. And hopefully I can convince you to be a rabid atheist like myself. Like, share, subscribe if you would. And this is the Rabyd Atheist signing off and wishing you a good day.